Hello, it's June 2020 and I'm in New Brunswick, New Jersey, home of the Scarlet Knights, and also my home at the moment. This is where my apartment is, and since Corona is out, I can't really travel too much, so we're doing some stories that are based around New Brunswick. Our first story is asking a very important question. What the hell happened to all the canals in the United States? I recently started watching this channel called Cruising the Cut. The channel is run by David Johns. He's a retired TV reporter that decided to live on a narrowboat in the UK. As I watched his channel more and more, I was impressed by all the preserved canals that were in the UK. All over he seemed to go on different canals here and there, and the one thing I questioned the entire time was, why do they have this and we have none of this in the United States? We actually do have canals here in the United States, just unlike the UK, we didn't preserve a lot of them. So back to New Brunswick where this video is currently taking place. To our right is the Delaware and Raritan Canal, and to our left is the Raritan River. On my search for canals like the ones in the UK, I didn't have to look far, because New Brunswick is actually the original terminus for the Delaware and Raritan Canal. This is what New Brunswick looked like in 1836, 2 years after the canal's completion, and if you need help seeing the canal, here's it highlighted in red. Like I said earlier, unlike the UK, we did not preserve our canals. Here's some historical footage of the DNR Canal from 1974.
Now, we see the exit and emptying out of the canal into the salt water of the Raritan River at Lock 14 in New Brunswick. Here also are seen the pilings costing hundreds of thousands of dollars of unfinished Highway 18, which was to cover part of the canal, a project since abandoned.
Unfortunately, Route 18 was built on top of the canal through large portions of New Brunswick. It even destroyed Lock 13, which was next to Johnson & Johnson's headquarters. The new terminus for the DNR Canal is now found past Route 18, past that bridge that you saw in the historical clip. Here in this video, you can see me walking toward now what is the end of the DNR Canal, which is just a spillway into the Raritan River. The DNR Canal, though, is still used for the water supply for New Brunswick, so even though it does not carry any maritime traffic anymore, it is still essential to keep. Now, I'm not making this video to point out why highways are bad. You can go watch one of my many other videos to see that example. This video is more focusing on the fact that we should preserve our historical infrastructure and keep it in working condition, for not only the future, but for others to understand how they helped the people in the past. Canals also have value in them more than just past the amount of things that they can move through them. Canals give an aesthetic and a flair to a city that otherwise wouldn't exist. Amsterdam in the Netherlands, Lockport in New York, and Chicago in Illinois. All of these cities have a canal that runs through them, and it's part of the city that's ingrained into the history of the city. You can't disconnect these from each other. The same is similar with New Brunswick. New Brunswick was shaped and created and elevated because of the canal and all of the infrastructure that surrounded it.
Of the Janeway's Wallpaper Company. By the way, one of the first wallpaper manufacturers in the United States, attracted to the canal, along with many others, such as the New Brunswick Foundry, by the convenience of shipping.
So now we have to talk about, why do you build a canal? So say you have to move a lot of things from point A to point B. You don't have any engines or trains yet, but you do have boats, animals, and the forces of nature. For centuries, boats have moved a lot of material with very little force applied. Sailing on the open seas is a great example. The only problem is that boats need to have flat, calm, and a predictable depth of water for them to be usable. You will rarely ever find this in nature, so it must be built. So now that you're building your canal from point A to point B, you might get stuck at point C. Point C, being directly in between point A and point B, wonders why either of those places are so important. But at point C, there is a hill that is impossible for your canal to go around. Since you can only build a canal flat and level, what is the solution? A lock, of course. Locks work on very simple mechanics. In essence, they are basically a set of two movable dams. They have the ability to raise and lower the water level between the two dams. This allows for a change in elevation for water traffic, while maintaining the relative calmness and regularity of the canal. The real ingenuity of canals and locks is that the entire system is run off the downhill flow of water. This makes canals incredibly efficient for moving heavy objects, because the gains in elevation or the gains in potential energy all come from the movement of water from the water cycle. The biggest problem when building a canal is usually finding a source of water at the highest elevation point on the canal, aka the biggest hill. But how do we get the water to the top of the hill? Well, you can do one of two things. You can build a reservoir, or if your reservoir doesn't fill fast enough, you can build a feeder canal from an upstream source to it. This diagram shows the elevation gains and losses on the DNR canal. We can see here just above Lock 6 is where the highest point on the canal is. This is the point on the canal where you'd want your water source, where you can feed the rest of the canal with water. It just so happens that the DNR does have a feeder canal. In northern Trenton, just above Lock 6, you can see where the old feeder canal comes into Trenton to meet with the actual DNR canal. In this fantastically illustrated map, you can see both of the sections of canals are highlighted. The feeder canal is highlighted in yellow, and the regular part of the DNR is highlighted in green. Canals are insanely impressive, both with what they are able to accomplish and with the cities and towns that they helped build throughout history. Unfortunately, here in the US, we have a tendency to destroy the old in favor of something new, especially when it comes to infrastructure. And no, I'm not talking about replacing an old failing bridge with a new one. I'm talking about forgetting our past, just to build a highway that will destroy the history and culture of a city in which it is built. Throughout history, certain canals were replaced by railroad. Others were left to rot with time, but canals like the DNR were purposely destroyed with the intent to move some metal boxes from the suburbs to a city more easily. The DNR could easily have been preserved in more working order for future generations, but those in power valued disposable highway infrastructure over their own past and culture. The DNR survives today, but only in a shadow of its former self, maybe to be revived again sometime far in the future.